I'd like to call tonight's Conservation Commission meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded and as well as televised through CTM. The first thing we have on tonight's agenda is we have time for open session citizen concern. So if someone in our audience, either in front of us here in person or out on the Zoom call, has something, just raise your hand, let us know, and we'll recognize you, and you can tell us what your question may be or comment. I see no items in here. Do we have anybody out in the Zoom at all, David? No? No. Good. All right. So moving along, on to our regulatory hearings. And the first item on tonight's agenda is a request for determination of applicability. Daniel Rawls, 7 Lakeside Avenue. And we've got Tim Donahue, Iron Tree Service, listed here as representing the applicant. Is the applicant here this evening?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Very good.
Tim is the applicant's representative.
Very good. So, Tim, if you can just give the commission an overview of what you're planning to do.
Do we need a legal notice?
Well, basically, to sum it up, we have
Tim, just hold up for Tim just for a second. We do actually have a legal notice we have to get into the record. So
I'm sorry.
I get my 3 seconds of.
All right, we have we have 3 seconds of fame here for our clerk.
Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGL 131, Section 40, and the Chelmsford Wetlands Bylaw, Chapter 187, the Chelmsford Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing in Room 204 at the Chelmsford Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, on Tuesday, March 1st, 2022, at 7 o'clock p.m. to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Daniel Rawls for proposed work within the 100-foot buffer zone to Hart Pond at 7 Lakeside Avenue, further identified as Assessors Map 124, Block 482, Lot 4. The project entails removal of 3 trees in declining health for the purpose of protecting human safety and property. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Carl. All right, Tim, back to you.
Yeah, so basically what we have are 3 trees. 2 of them are both Norway maples, which are an invasive species, particularly species of maples that are prone to cankerous diseases as well. And one of the trees is located between 2 houses. The larger tree has already started to lose some limbs and it's in declining health. The other Norway maple is a very small tree, still a juvenile, but it is situated right next to a garage, so that in years to come, it has strong potential to cause property damage for the homeowner. The third tree is a double leader paper birch. One of the leaders is already dead. Even if you just cut the other one, it's going to allow decay. If you cut the dead leader, it's still going to allow decay into the base of the tree. So it makes no sense to not take them both while we're there.
Okay.
That is the shortest, sweetest way I can sum that up.
Oh, very good. Thanks for the overview. Let's see if the commissioners have questions for you. We'll start down at this end here with John.
I really don't see anything wrong with this. They're going to plant any new trees?
I am not aware of that. We do not offer any planting services, so if it is something the homeowner was going to do, it would be done through a third party or himself.
Okay.
Anything else, John? No,
No.
good. Chris, anything?
I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Good. Okay, Dave, anything?
This is within the 100-foot buffer, but not within the 50-foot buffer, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. John's comment was a good one. We're kind of putting an emphasis on trees these days, and although these lots are pretty small, are there many trees on the lot now?
No, there are not. There is the large Norway maple between the 2 houses. I believe there might be one other birch cluster on the property. So unfortunately, the large maple between the 2 houses is a mature tree that it's, ideal. It would be ideal if we could leave it. And if it was something that it was in the middle of an open backyard and no structures or areas where people congregate nearby, I would say leave the tree, let it fail. And there's no problem with it. But in this scenario, it is right by the homeowner's back door to their house. outside of being right on top of the house and the neighbor's house. So any failure for this is essentially going to cause property damage. So
Are you gonna take the stumps out too?
we do not have stump grinding slated to be done.
So as far as, okay,
To be honest with you, two of them, you wouldn't even be able to grind them, but one is, the large one is in a very small area, so you would not be able to get a stump grinder back there. The other one is right next to the garage.
I'm
You
not,
run the risk
I'm
of
not
property
suggesting that you do it, I was just asking the question. This
Oh,
is, this
sorry,
is an
I
RDA, I don't have a problem with it. I would like maybe for the commission to send the homeowner a letter after the fact, just encouraging them to plant trees where there is room and where it's possible. I mean, I don't want to make it, I don't want to make this application dependent on that.
Agreed, and the only caveat I can offer, as a company, we do partner with a nonprofit that we do donate from every job we do to reforesting deforested areas.
That's very
Great,
nice.
that's good. That's good to know. Yeah, good. Thanks, Dave. Bill, anything?
I'm fine, Chris.
All right, Mark?
No, the only thing I could add on to Dave's comment was I'd like them to be indigenous trees. Not these Norway maples or willows.
We have a tree expert, so he can.
It's 3 years now, isn't it? Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Carl, anything?
Oh, I'm good. Taking
Good.
out Norway maples is always a good thing, so.
Good. It's just a public hearing. Is anybody from,
Agreed.
Almost always.
this is a public hearing. Is anybody from the public here have any questions or comments related to this matter? All right, no questions, comments? All right, I would ask for an approval then of this request. This is a request for determination. Do we have a motion then for a determination to approve the project?
I move we issue a request for determination as a -3.
Motion by Dave for the -3.
Second.
Seconded by Christopher. Any discussion before we vote? No discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Unanimous. You're all set, Mr. Donahue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I'd like to thank the committee.
You're most welcome.
So,
Thank you. Have a great night.
there's also-
And by the way, one last comment. We really liked that plan that you gave us tonight. It was, it had color, and it was something we can look at without having to, get our bifocals out, so,
Sign them both.
thank you.
You and me both.
All right,
Excellent. Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, David.
Guys are so old.
All right. Next item for agenda is a notice of intent. This is a continuation from our February 1st hearing date. This is the applicant is the town of Chelmsford. Relates to 1 through 104 Turnpike Road. And we have the firm of Howard Stein Hudson representing the applicant. And let's just kind of pick it up from where we were from last time. So welcome back again.
Thank you. Bob's handing out
Speaking of
copies of
killing
the
trees.
plans, hard copies.
Thank you.
Had a chance to download the PDF version, but we've got the hard copies as well.
Gotta do the other one, too.
So just tell me when you want to move from slide to slide.
Thanks, Bob.
Oh, sure. Just to give the briefer overview, since you heard it last time. My name is Bridget Myers from Howard Stein Hudson. We're working with the town of Chelmsford on a sidewalk project on Turnpike Road. It's about 3,100 feet of sidewalk that'll start near the Kinlock Apartments, where they have some existing sidewalk there already. We'll tie into that, and it'll extend up to the intersection at Route 129. It's a standard 5-foot sidewalk, granite curb. But as we get down towards the brook, we do have a small pedestrian bridge to cross over that area without touching the existing culvert there. And, the reason that we need the notice of intent is because of the wetlands there, the brook crossing, and that a big portion of the road itself and the sidewalk is within the 100-foot flood zone. Probably go to the first slide. So that's just the site location, what I just went over, and now we can move on to the next slide. And I will actually hand it over to Bob now, because we've gotten some updates since the last time we were here.
Can't read it. Can you tell me what's on it?
Yeah, we'll go through it.
You want me to zoom in?
Can you go to screen?
Yeah, that would be great.
Can you, or can you?
If you can. Yeah.
Good evening. Bob Messenger here from Howard Stein
That's
Hudson.
better.
So as Bridget mentioned, we had some coordination with some of the state agencies for this project. We're in the flood zone here, so we had feedback from DEP regarding some of the items. First one here on the list, part of the portions of the project across the River Meadow Brook are in the Endangered Species Program. They're flagged for blandings and wood turtles. So we had coordination with them. We submitted a review to them. We got back a conditional approval. They had two conditions for that, and one is a turtle protection plan. So before any construction activity starts, there needs to be a submission to them for their approval in order to implement a standard turtle protection plan. And in addition to that, they also requested that all erosion and sediment controls be removed after construction from those areas. So we're certainly willing and will meet those criteria. And previously, we talked about Zoo New England possibly doing work out there in the protected habitat areas. We did reach out to them with your contact, so appreciate that. And they agreed with the Endangered Species Program findings, but they did also list, they recommended to plant native shrubs in our compensatory storage area, which replanting and stabilizing is part of the DEP standards anyway, but we got a list of shrubs that they suggested that these turtles use and forage with, apparently. In addition to that, they should be coordinated with a turtle protection plan. They had certain improvements to the area that could be done in this compensatory storage area, so that they will be looped in on anything that happens there. And of course, Mass DEP, we did get back, or they got back to us. They had a few comments, one just to incorporate the Endangered Species Program conditions, the two I mentioned previously. And the compensatory storage area, I will get into this on a couple slides later, but the access to the site, they wanted to know about that. I believe that was a question from the commission last time we were here. And they also revegetation and stabilizing the areas that were disturbing, which as part of our plan set, that's included. And finally, the compensatory storage area is on a national grid easement. It's a town-owned property, but there's utility poles and wires with a national grid easement. So in order to do any of that work, we need approval from them. So we've submitted to the right-of-way department, and that's pending, following up with them, but waiting to hear back whether that's
Any
okay.
idea how long that type of review would take?
So it's a first for me.
Yeah. National Grid, huh?
We did get a contact from a colleague of ours that helped us out previously in a project in the Chelmsford area. So we're hoping that could expedite, but
Don't hold your breath.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, good luck on that, for sure.
Yep. So of course, anything, the comp storage area, it's all pending their allowance for that work. So first portion of this presentation was just for updates from that, but the second, we talked to the commission agent. He recommended we get into a little more detail on the plans. Last time was more bigger picture, but we're gonna look at some of the things we're adding in a little bit more detail in terms of the sidewalk and the bridge. On the slide here, we have, on that plan set there, it's sheet 4. This is just a colorized version showing the pedestrian bridge and sidewalk over River Meadow Brook. Bridget mentioned it's a 5-foot wide sidewalk, HMA. We're adding a 6-foot granite curb in most locations. And approaches to the pedestrian bridge, we do have a low retaining wall.
At the last hearing, you or someone said that bridge was going to be about 109 feet elevation and 1 or 2 feet above floodplain, is that correct?
So we do have
How many
a
feet
section.
above floodplain is that bridge going to be?
So the 100-year goes over the the bridge itself.
So the 100-year storm will flood the bridge?
Yes, I believe so. We have a section that we'll get to.
Okay.
That shows it pretty clear.
Right, go ahead.
I just don't want to
Thanks.
incorrectly. So overall, 3,300 linear feet of sidewalk and new granite curb. The existing road has no granite curb, so we will be adding drainage structures to get that runoff. In existing condition, it just runs off to swales directly into the wetlands. So we'll be adding 10 catch basins. Since we're increasing impervious area, in total about 16,000 square feet, we'll be adding some infiltration systems where they could work in the higher portions of the roadway, pending test pits for seasonal high groundwater. And we're discharging from any catch basins or infiltration systems with flared end outlets and riprap. So that's just overall the standards. You can see some of the wetland resources on this plan as well. The blue right there is all the wetland flags. So we are right up to it. We're not in it, but we are right next to it. So we will be within the 25-foot no disturb. And also River Meadow Brook, we're in the riverfront area as well. And this whole screen here, you'll see that's all in the flood zone for the 100-year floodplain. So hence the compensatory storage that we've talked about.
Will you show us all the locations where you need our waiver? Is there any other 25-foot disturbed area, or is that the only one?
There's another section of wetlands where there's...
If you go through this, will you highlight where you need our 25-foot waiver and if we need a 30-foot waiver?
Okay. Yeah, I don't believe...
Because the sidewalks are asphalt, correct?
Yes, they are. So I don't think this presentation has that other area. The first one did. The plan set does. It's shown.
Well, we're going to have to give you a specific waiver by location, because it's not the whole length of the sidewalk, is it?
No.
Right.
So for the next slide, David, thank you. So you can scroll out a little bit. These are just typical sections along the roadway here. This top one, the dark is the proposed sidewalk. You can see a proposed 1.5-foot saw cut, a vertical granite curb with a 6-inch max reveal. It varies in areas, 5-foot wide HMA sidewalk draining back to the road, and 4 inches of loam and seed from the back of sidewalk grading back to meet existing conditions. That is the condition for the majority of the 3,300 linear feet. If you look down below, this is the cross-section of where the retaining wall approaching the pedestrian bridge. So we'll be filling in underneath the sidewalk there with a low retaining wall. It's concrete with timber posts as well. So the back of that wall there will be existing grade. It varies between 1 to 2 to 3 feet, depending on where it is. And of course, the same condition with the sidewalk and the proposed saw cut and vertical granite curb. And if you go to the next slide, please. And this is just showing typical details. Gravel sub-base underneath the sidewalk, crushed stone underneath the curb, and the HMA sidewalk itself, 3 inches of that. And to the right, got the low retaining wall, a timber rail embedded about 2 feet into the wall, and that wall is about embedded about 2 feet into the existing grade. If you could scroll over to the right, David.
The right?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And this wall will be outside of the wetlands, but it'll be right up next to it. But it varies, but a foot or two away, a couple feet away. And next slide. So we do have Paul B. from Howard Stein Hudson on the line, I believe. This is a plan view of the bridge section, and there's a few other sheets he'll get into. This can be seen at sheet 31 on the plan set. There's 39 in total, so it should be toward the back.
All right, good evening, everyone. Yep, my name is Paul Berthium with Howard Stein Hudson. You can see here, Dave, if you can zoom to the right a little bit, you can see the location of the bridge. This is a simple span steel stringer bridge. It is spanning over the wetlands. It is adjacent to the existing culvert to remain. That's pretty much it. The goal here was to span over the wetlands and not have any impacts there, and to have the bottom of the bridge basically higher than the existing culvert. If we go to the next slide, you'll get an elevation view and kind of a feel of how the bridge will look while you're looking at it. So there you can see the twin box culvert that is the existing structure, and you can see the bottom, the low chord of the proposed bridge is going to be up above that culvert, and the flood elevations are shown on there. The abutments are going to sit, they're supported by proposed micropiles, which is a drilled 9.5-inch diameter steel casing for the top 12 to 15 feet. Those piles will then be continued down another 20 or so feet. And once the hole is drilled, a steel rebar will be placed in the center of the micropile, and it will be grouted. And the reason why we had to use micropile or a deep foundation for these abutments is that there is 9 to 12 feet of fill in this area, which is not suitable to support a bridge on, which is why we had a geotechnical engineer take some borings out here and make that determination. Next slide, please.
Dave, you got a question?
Sure.
I did, I forgot it. Keep going. I'll remember.
All right, we'll
I
come
hope.
back.
Okay.
Thanks.
This next slide, you'll see this is the abutment elevation. So this is if you were standing underneath the bridge, looking at the bridge, this is the abutment where the girders would sit. A picture to the right is an example of how those micropiles come up out of the ground. And what you see there is the pile cap is ready to be poured. Just short of putting rebar in there, that is what the forming would look like. So similar construction. Next slide, please. So here we have a couple of sections of what the superstructure of the bridge would look like. Again, it's a stringer bridge. It's just a twin girder. The bridge is itself 8 feet wide to accommodate a 1 foot wide curb with timber bridge rail to protect pedestrians and bicyclists traveling over the bridge. Yeah, it's got a reinforced concrete deck. It will have 3 inches of bituminous concrete on it, pavement, to help support it and carry traffic. That's it on that.
Is there
next slide, please.
Is there a ramp up to and off of the bridge from the sidewalk itself? Or is it the same
There's no ramp.
same elevation as the sidewalk?
It will be the same elevation as the sidewalk. Yeah, I don't have a profile here, but the grade itself, I think, is 1%, 1.5%. So the length of the bridge.
So it'll meet handicapped accessible requirements.
Yeah, the grade
Oh,
is
absolutely.
climbed
Yes.
up to the bridge, but it's not a ramp. It's under 5%.
When you
next
construct,
slide,
when you
please.
construct the bridge, are you working in the stream, in the water?
No. Actually, if we want to go back a few slides, that's a very good question. Go back to the plan view, if you could. Slide 7. So the wetlands are, I believe what I did is I offset the abutments 5 feet from the wetland lines just for some tolerances. The jagged line you see around each abutment, that is temporary shoring. So we envision that the contractor will drive, some limited depth sheets. The hole here, they're only going down 4 feet. That's the benefit of the deep foundation, is that there's not a lot of excavation associated with it. The other option we could have done was we could have excavated out all the unsuitable materials, but we would have been going down in a hole, 10, 12 feet. So that wasn't really feasible here. Didn't make sense. Also, the water table, you'd be dealing with dewatering and all that. The water table is around 4.5 to 5 feet down. So by going down 4 feet, you shouldn't need to dewater. Completely outside the limits of the stream, to drill the micropiles, cast the concrete for the bridge, and then you can set the steel stringers from behind the abutments. These steel stringers are very light in nature. They probably will get placed with an excavator. So I would assume that the excavator used to dig the hole for the abutment, they would probably use to set the steel stringers. So you're not talking a large crane or anything like that. So very simple construction outside the limits of the wetlands. And that was all I had, unless there are any other questions.
Good. Any, since we're on the bridge right now, is any specific questions related to the bridge that we haven't asked yet? Right, I think we're good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
David, if you could go to the drainage.
Why'd you pick the height of the bridge as where it is, as opposed to making it higher? You said you said a 100-year storm will flow over it, correct?
Yeah, it's.
How much higher would you have had to make it?
I don't know.
Several feet.
2 feet?
Several feet.
Several.
And the issue there is
Because we're getting 100-year storms more frequently than 100 years.
Understood. The issue with lifting the profile that high up is that the retaining walls would have been very substantial, and the low retaining wall that we are using here that, again, supports like 1 to 3 feet in exposure, you would have had walls much more substantial than that.
I'm not so sure flooding out of the bridge is a problem, because the street will certainly be flooded out.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Good. Okay.
So this slide here shows some of the drainage in our typical condition throughout the corridor. So as I mentioned, we're adding a vertical granite curb. We need to collect the drainage somehow, so we're proposing deep sump catch basins. And in this particular case here on the screen is where one of our leaching basin and or galley infiltration systems are. So the deep sump catch basin will discharge to the leaching galley, and there it will fill up and infiltrate, and it'll overflow out toward the flared end section that we have there. So there's, on this picture here, there's about 90 feet of pipe before it gets to.
It'll end up in the stream.
Exactly. It won't back up into the catch
How
basin.
frequently are those catch basins cleaned?
Depends on the maintenance. I'm not.
Do you know what's in the O&M plan regarding cleaning?
We suggest, I believe, quarterly.
I'm sorry, quarterly?
Quarterly.
Thank you.
And the maintenance for these leaching galleys, infiltration systems are the exact same as a catch basin. So you open up the cover and you put in the vac for these concrete structures. And David, if you could scan to the right there, that's just the typical catch basin detail. 4-foot deep sump catch basin. So the sump gets rid of some of the debris and pollutants before it fills up and discharges. There's a hood as well to prevent anything big from getting out. Pretty standard detail there. Next slide, please.
Just question, Bob, what is this structure right here that I'm circling? You see that?
Oh, that's a manhole.
Okay.
It's technically like an outlet structure for the leaching galley. They're square, so you can't go at an angle out to it, so it goes there and then bends before it discharges further out.
But isn't there a port on the leaching galley itself to be able to
Yes,
get in
there
there?
is. Yep.
So what's the purpose of this other manhole?
Just to convey and direct it. As I mentioned, the leaching galley is parallel to the road, so we couldn't do a pipe from the leaching galley directly out to the wetland. We had to convey it through a manhole.
Okay.
And these two details here, flared end section, one on the left, it's a piece of pipe that's cut, so when installed, it can blend in with the slope, and there's riprap underneath it to prevent any erosion before getting into the wetlands or anything like that, and also slow down the flow. And to the right is a leaching galley detail. Typically, they're 4 foot wide, 4 foot long, 4 foot deep concrete structures with holes on them and surrounded by stone and fabric. So the water will discharge into that and leach into the groundwater before filling up, and in a large storm, filling up and discharging downstream.
So what size storm before they overflow?
So these are sized for a half-inch storm, which is quite big, but they'll probably overflow like a 10-year storm. They might start overflowing because the infiltration rate is a lot slower than that storm. And next slide, please. And if you could zoom out. So getting into some of the compensatory storage, a lot of this project is in the flood zone, as we mentioned. And a lot of the regulatory authorities had comments regarding the comp storage and nothing else regarding the actual sidewalk. So the plan on the left there, it's a FEMA map. So this shows the Turnpike Road at the angle there in the bottom left, and the compensatory storage is off-site. And on the right side, you'll see it's off of Orleans Street. River Neck Road and Orleans intersection is right there in the bottom right. The town has a water department building there. And as you can see, if you kept going down Orleans Street, there is an access path for the National Grid easement. It's pretty much clear cut for 15 to 25
Excuse
feet.
me, can you orient me a bit?
Yeah.
The Conservation Commission owns land abutting the Water Department's land on two sides, correct?
Mhm.
You're saying, and the compensatory storage area is totally on conservation land, not on the Water Department's land, is
Yes,
that correct?
yes, correct.
And how are you going to access that? You're going to go down Orleans Street and around and back in
So down Orleans Street, just keep going straight. There's,
towards 495?
so on this is Orleans Street here, River Neck Road right here, Orleans Street. The Water Department building is right there.
Yeah.
So the comp storage is back here.
Okay, so how, you're going to go down to the end of Orleans?
Into Orleans, there's, I believe, a small building, but National Grid has a clear-cut path for their right-of-way here. It's 15 to...
So you're going to use the National Grid area to get to the proposed compensatory storage area?
Yeah.
So you won't have to cut trees or drive trucks through existing woodland?
Exactly. There's no gates or anything. It's just straight-up clear-cut.
But it is clear cut for you to get in?
I walked it this morning.
Okay.
Yeah, it's perfectly clear-cut, and of course, the right-of-way itself is completely clear-cut, but it's 20 feet wide. There's some canopies about what a mini excavator absolutely could get through. Yeah. And that was Mass DEP had a comment on that, so I'm coordinating the access with them as well, because, yeah, it's definitely a concern how to get there. And the next slide, please.
Just a question, Bob. You and I had talked a little bit about this over the phone, but for the benefit of commissioners, I mean, it's a little bit unusual to do a compensatory flood storage area that's so far removed from the site of the actual project. So I was just wondering if you could say a few words about that. In particular, why is it that doing the flood storage, compensatory flood storage location this far away will serve the purpose for which the regulation is intended?
Sure, yeah. So, as we mentioned, it's obviously in the flood zone, but the right-of-way issues and the proximity for the wetlands and the actual Turnpike Road sidewalk, there is no space to do compensatory storage where the pedestrian bridge is or anywhere along that right-of-way. So we coordinated with DEP. We said, this falls under a limited project because you're technically improving an existing roadway, so you don't have to do compensatory storage. But when we approached DEP, they said you could try doing it elsewhere. So we talked with the town. We went through a few different town-owned properties within this area of the flood zone, and we pegged this one behind the water department, and DEP seemed okay with it, and they didn't comment any further in the submission. So it is unique, but it's trying to provide flood storage, even though we don't have to, but it is in a different location, which is unique.
But the fact that it's downstream
Mhm.
from the project site is a good thing, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah.
One of the reasons we picked this site versus others is that this area, because it was under the utility lines, it was already cleared, and we weren't gonna have to, remove trees just to, do some grading to provide this. We didn't wanna have that impact, just to provide some comp storage, so.
You just have to get National Grid's approval.
The picture, go back one, please. The picture to the right, you said Orleans was on the right of the picture and River Neck was there. Where is River Neck and Billrica Road? Can you see it on that or not?
So the very bottom
Far left bottom?
River Neck's right here.
Yeah,
So your bridge and Billrica Road's down here.
okay.
River Neck Road. Right?
Where, can you see Dawn Drive and Carter Drive on that or not?
On this particular.
That would be to the left as well.
Correct.
Can you see it on that?
Not on this picture.
The only reason I bring it up is
Standing there.
the current Zoo New England activity is more in the Carter Drive, Dawn Drive area than it is up by the water department. So, I don't think when you do your work on compensatory, you'll be in the area where there have been wood turtle habitat. That doesn't mean it isn't potentially, but I don't think they're there now. But you better double check, because you don't want to start digging it up if you're running into hatchlings, that's all.
Well, I think it is in the priority habitat area.
Well, no question about that, David. I'm just saying, from what I know of where the actual work that Zoo New England is doing, it's to the left of that site, whereas the compensatory storage is up to the right, closer to the water department.
I believe so. I believe that's correct. But I think that, there definitely will be, I think that there's going to have to be two turtle protection plans. One where the sidewalk is actually being constructed, but also, too, for the construction of the compensatory flood storage areas.
Why the former?
Well, because that's impacting priority habitat as well.
Yeah, but the Natural Heritage letter didn't talk about that site. They only talked about the site where the compensatory storage is.
No, it talked about,
Okay.
the sidewalk
You're the
site as
agent.
well. Yeah.
So both areas are within that
Just,
footprint.
and let me say it again.
Mhm.
One of the conclusions from the halfway through the Zoo New England study, there's another 2 years to go, is that the wood turtle habitat in that general area has deteriorated significantly. And one of their recommendations, which I think you guys are going to be able to address, is to improve the environment so that the wood turtle habitat will resurrect itself. And that's why I'm so concerned about, or not concerned, because I think you're doing it right. We want to make sure that compensatory storage area encourages wood turtle population, so.
Yep. So
What time of
this-
year would you do that compensatory work, do you know?
That, I'm a,
That I
be
think will be
speculating
part of the
on that.
turtle protection.
Be in the
plan.
plan itself, yeah.
yeah.
Probably should be the dry seasons, yeah, yeah, okay. And so who's gonna review that plan that we get from, first of all, you're gonna hire a subcontractor to write the plan, I take it?
So
Well,
You.
I've had some conversations with Bob about this. I think it makes sense that the commission actually hire that consultant, and not spending.
Can we
the
do that
commission's dollars.
tonight?
Can we do that?
So we can get the guy working, Because they're on a timeline. I mean, can we pick a consultant tonight? Or don't you have a quote yet?
Well, Zoo New England did recommend a couple of consultants who can do it, but yeah, we would need a price estimate.
Sure.
I gather there's actually no money yet to do, the actual construction phase of the project. But yeah, it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt. I mean, actually,
Just
we'll need
increase
to
the
get
size of the
estimates.
grant.
What's that?
I said they can increase the size of the grant they're looking for.
Well, my understanding is the grant funds are gone. But
Oh, okay.
The grant what?
I gather the grant money has already been spent
For these guys?
on design and permitting, yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's probably what its purpose was.
All right, well, please continue.
So this final slide here is just a zoomed-in area for the compensatory storage. The gray hatches are the earthwork activities that would be happening. So underneath the wires and near the poles, there's mounds where the poles are connected. They seem to be a lot of extra space where they have material. So we're looking to cut that back and remove that material to do our flood compensation. And of course, this is where we would also be providing erosion controls throughout, and also restabilizing and planting the native species per the Zoo New England recommendations and the Endangered Species Program for the final condition. And it's a few different areas just within the certain criteria for flood zone comp storage. And that's it. So any questions, happy to answer.
Good, great. We appreciate the additional detail and information you were able to provide tonight. Let's just take it from down the line, see if the commissioners have further follow-up questions. John?
This storage area, you're talking underneath the power lines.
There's about
Are we-
25, 30 feet, yeah.
You're gonna be dumping trucks underneath high tension wires. Have you talked to National Grid about this?
So we have reached out to them. We haven't gotten approval yet or their feedback yet.
When do you think you're gonna get that?
I do not know.
Because this might be a whole waste of time, and National Grid might say no. They blocked off a retention area on Boston Road that we're using, they put a gate up, okay? And I don't think they like that stuff going on. So I think this is almost a waste of time right now, until you talk to National Grid.
So it's still outstanding and it's all, like you said, contingent on that.
I mean, just talking
It's
about
not
excavating
mandatory.
around the mounds, around the poles and stuff.
But didn't you say that it's not really required? It's sort of
Exactly.
like icing on the
So
cake?
through Mass DEP,
I mean, I agree with John.
Yeah.
Mass
National
DEP,
Grid.
Mass DEP went back at him and said,
Right.
it's not required, but we'd like you, but by the way, we'd like you.
Yeah, but National Grid still has to grant permission.
Of the four, on sheet 24, there's 4 areas you're gonna work in, I think.
yeah.
Are they all under the easement, or is only 1 or 2?
They're in the easement, they're not all directly under wires. They're all within,
And John, are you just talking about the easement generally, or are you talking about work under the wires?
On National Grid property.
Just so easement and so.
Right.
So all 4 of these are in the easement?
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I would
Town-owned property,
assume
National Grid
that that should be checked on before this goes,
Yeah, why spend other money?
why spend all this and have National Grid say, you're not dumping this dirt here? Right?
And I have discussed that possibility with Bob, is that National Grid may deny it. That's
They
possible.
denied Boston Road. They came in and they put a gate right up as soon as they started using the area, okay, for the project that's going on Boston Road now.
But
They
you're
put a
mo-
gate right up.
But you're moving dirt around, you're not bringing in incrementally more dirt, right?
We're removing dirt.
You're taking it out of one place and putting it into another.
It
Just
it
storing
doesn't
it.
matter when you deal with National Grid.
What?
Natural Grid has,
Don't call them natural.
I said National Grid. Natural Grid, Dave. Yeah, I mean, I agree with John.
Yeah, no, I
mean-
think it makes sense. Why go to all the time and energy if
I'm
they're-
just-
if even if it's illogical? If they're gonna say no, they're gonna say no.
I drive by the gate on Boston Road every day. They were using the property. The next thing you know, it was cleaned up and out, and National Grid come in and put a gate right up. So, I'm just saying, before we, start worrying about everything else, we gotta find out if you can do it there.
Not we, they, right.
Well,
Yeah.
Us as a town.
Yeah.
The town.
Right.
And plus, it could really introduce a lot of delay. I mean, my experience with National Grid is it takes forever to get to the right
But
person to
we all
make a
know how
decision, right?
fast National Grid works.
Yeah. I mean, to get to the right person, to get a decision, time is marching along.
We
Correct.
just saw him a month ago, so we got some contacts, right?
No, that was Natural Grid.
Very good.
I got one other question. Dewatering. You're gonna do this project without dewatering at all?
I believe usually
I can't see it.
so we have, for the pedestrian bridge, there's piles going in to prevent any flooding and
Right, but
mostly up to
you're
the
gonna be
contractor
working,
to
this
dewater.
retaining wall is gonna be directly in the water, basically. What kind of retaining wall is it? Is it a block,
Concrete,
poured concrete?
believe so.
Poured concrete,
Yeah,
yes.
cast in place.
Okay, so you're gonna have to pour footing, you're gonna have to dig, you're gonna be right in the water for about 100 feet. 100 feet south of the bridge is right in the water.
I would hope they'd be doing it during a drier time of year.
Okay, all right. I have no other questions
Hey,
right
thanks, John.
now.
All right, thanks, John. Chris?
Sure. So for the stormwater itself, who maintains it? Is it town maintaining it? Is it a third party?
I would assume the city, or excuse me, the town would be maintaining
Assume the
this.
town, Chris?
Do they have the
The
ability?
stormwater management division.
Right. Do they have the ability to maintain?
That's why the budget goes up every year.
So the infiltration systems have the same maintenance as a catch basin.
Christina has joined us. Maybe she has something to say about that. Christina?
Oh, hi, good evening. Christina Papadopoulos, town engineer. So yes, the stormwater division is capable of maintaining that infrastructure.
Okay, that's all I needed.
All right, anything else, Chris?
And did you say you did do test pits out there, or you're going to do test pits out there?
We have not done them yet, so that infiltration would be contingent on test pits.
Okay, obviously, that's pretty important. So, okay, that's
All
all I
right,
have.
good for now. All right, Dave?
Christine, there's an engineer's report from you on this project, or there will be?
Yes, there will be.
Are you going to be responsible for the construction of the sidewalk?
It has been discussed among the DPW that we would prefer to contract the construction out. We feel like it's a really long piece of sidewalk, and we prefer to contract it out.
Okay, the reason I ask is if your name's on the engineering report and you're the management responsible for building the sidewalk, that seems to be a bit of a conflict. So I'm glad to hear you say you're talking possibly about outsourcing it. But if you don't, if you don't, I'd like to understand how you can sign the engineer's report on the one hand and manage the project on the other. All due respect to you, Christina, you're great. But I just wanted to ask that question. You may not know the answer.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of in the same situation. That, I mean, I work for the town, it's a town project, so I could,
Yeah, but you're not managing the project.
well, no, but I'm kind of overseeing it or at least monitoring it, for compliance with wetlands
Yeah,
rules and
that's your
regulations.
job, right.
Yeah.
But don't forget, to me, the town engineer's report is kind of a critique of what the vendor wants to do for the town. And so anyhow.
So your concern is the town engineer's report isn't going to critique their own work?
Right. There's always that.
So, as a professional,
I
always
don't-
give my
I under-
unbiased opinion.
Yes, you do, and I
on-
appreciate
on
it,
everything.
Christine, and I don't mean.
I don't hold back.
I don't mean to go that way either, but you know what I'm
Okay.
saying.
All right, Dave. Very good. Bill?
So if National Grid says no, what's your next step?
We have to go back to DEP, let them know that, and just make sure they're okay with not doing comp storage. The project, by their regulations, does not have to. So it was supplemental or additional.
Is there a chance that they would say you'd still need it?
We've done some site selection with them, narrowed down, this is really the only
I know
doable
it.
option,
That's what I mean,
so.
but if they say, if they don't waive it, and they still say you still have to do it, you're gonna have to go back to square one and take another look at
Cross
the
that
project.
bridge when we get there.
Yeah, I honestly don't think DEP would say that, because as Bob mentioned earlier, this is a limited project.
Yeah,
So if,
well, I'm surprised they took the stand they did to begin with, because it's a limited project.
well,
I suppose if you don't ask for it, you may not get it, you're right.
And I think, with limited projects, the alternatives, and possible ways of minimizing the impact, it's always good to take a look at those. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, if it can't be done because it's a limited project, it's not, an actual required performance standard.
All right. Bill?
I have no more questions. I just think that's something that needs to be answered before we go too far along.
All right, Mark?
Moving along, that we did get the project going. There's a lot of areas, like I think Dave brought up before, was where we're gonna be within so many feet of wetlands, we're gonna need permission at the sidewalk, building retaining walls. You're moving fire hydrants,
Believe we're moving one fire hydrant. Yeah,
just one.
just one.
Well, all those things have to be marked out and notified so we know which ones we're gonna do. In structures, there's, I think, 8 structures you're gonna do? Build structures for catch basins and stuff?
10 catch basins, yep.
No, I just want to bring that out.
Okay,
That's it.
good. Thanks, Mark. Carl?
I'm good.
All right. David, from your agent's perspective, any comments, questions you want to bring out in front of us now?
I don't really have anything else to add at this time, Mr. Chairman, but the hearing is going to have to be continued again in hopes of getting some kind of an answer from National Grid in a reasonable amount of time. So I would say, I don't know, and I don't know if we're going to get that in 2 weeks, so. And then it turns out that the April 5th, the regularly scheduled April 5th meeting is going to have to be canceled because that's election night. So maybe it makes sense to continue it to the April 19th meeting.
All right.
Hopefully get an answer by then.
Comments from the audience?
Yeah, let's see if we have any comments from the audience on this hearing, as a public hearing. So if anybody either here in the meeting room or out on the Zoom internet meeting has something for us, just let us know. David, anything out there? No?
No?
Okay, good. Very good. Any last questions, comments from the commissioners before we entertain a motion to continue? No? Any comments from the applicant's engineering firm here?
Nope.
What do you think on continuance? Move it out, probably later, and to allow you a chance to see what you can get for an answer back?
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with the commission.
All right.
And
You want to go to April 19th?
Yeah, that works. Yeah, we figured this would happen, we just wanted to
Mr. Chairman, I
go through the plans with you all tonight.
I move we continue the hearing on the Turnpike sidewalks until April 19th,
Thank you.
2022.
Thank you, Dave. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Chris. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Unanimous. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bob and Bridget. Tonight's agenda, the next item that we have up is a discussion item with respect to ratification of a February 22nd, 2022 enforcement order that was issued by our agent with respect to 235 Littleton Road. Mr. Coons, if you could give us a little update on that situation?
Sure. I actually stopped by the site today. All the issues, in my opinion, have been addressed. They were addressed promptly, effectively, and without an argument. So the enforcement order still needs to be ratified because it's really through the enforcement order that the authority to do the work is conveyed. So the commission does need to do that. I think once, and then maybe Mr. Costas, who's owns the contracting company, maybe he can speak a little bit to the schedule. I think it's a matter of once the foundation is actually poured.
Sure.
And then the site is stabilized. I don't think this same thing is going to happen again. That, with a hole filling up with water and then overflowing. But as I say, in my opinion, it's been addressed satisfactorily.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's always good when we have these things addressed quickly and we get that cooperation. So we certainly appreciate your diligence in getting right out there on this thing, and appreciate the diligence here of the respondent. Let's see if we have any questions before we take a vote on the ratification. Any questions from the commission?
No?
No? Good, good. All right, this is good. All right, can we have a motion then to ratify the enforcement order?
I move that we enforce the ratify.
Ratify the enforcement order.
We ratify the enforcement order of 235 Littleton Road.
Hey, thanks, Dave. And a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Bill. Any discussion before we vote? All right, good. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Any questions at all, Mr. Costas, or? No, good.
We just had to make sure you guys didn't have any questions of us.
We appreciate that. We appreciate you being here and again, working with our agent. Thank you so much.
Pleasure working with them.
Absolutely. Good.
And the enforcement order can be dissolved at some point, so.
Hey, I'd like to be there working tomorrow, but the weather has.
Understood. So, good job.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Excellent.
Good night.
Night. Thank you.
Right.
All right, the next item we have is another discussion item. Peter Moran, this is an issue related to RDA versus a notice of intent filing for a grease trap at 272 Old Westford Road. That's out by the Roberts Field location many of us are familiar with. David, you want to give us a little overview?
Sure, I can start this off. So the desire for the property owner who operates a business there is to install a grease trap and connect it to the existing sewer line. I gather that this is a requirement of the Board of Health and the sewer department. So I went out, I did a site visit with the owner and Ms. Enright from Howard Stein Hudson. It's and the reason I'm not completely sure whether it should be a notice of intent or an RDA is even though the work is in existing pavement. And it's actually a relatively simple project. It's basically just digging a hole and, for the grease trap and digging trenches for the lines. But the work is in relatively close proximity to the wetlands. So wasn't sure whether the commission has a policy on this or not. I think, in my opinion, I think it could easily be conditioned with a negative determination, consisting primarily of, installation of erosion control and maybe, submission of an operation and maintenance plan for the grease trap. I'm not sure exactly what, if anything, is required in that regard. But anyway, there wasn't enough time to do a notice of intent filing for the March 15th meeting, but there was enough time to submit an RDA. So an RDA has been submitted, and if the consensus on the part of the commission is that that's good enough for this project, then that hearing will move forward as scheduled on March 15th. I did emphasize to the property owner that I couldn't guarantee that the commission would be comfortable making any kind of an opinion tonight, and that the commission might say, well, go ahead with the RDA, but it may be a positive determination. So Mr. Moran understands that, but I thought it was worth having this discussion in any case.
Okay, good. I mean, I'm kind of inclined, I like the idea of doing the RDA. Obviously, we have to always reserve our rights to, to objectively review the RDA when it actually comes in for us and it's been advertised, but I would be probably inclined to do an RDA, and it sounds like, based on what you're telling me, that might be all that we need to do. Could very likely be a -3, some sort of negative determination. But let's poll the commissioners and kind of see how they feel. Start down here at the end, John?
I have no problem with this. I mean, I think it's simple.
Yeah.
From what the grease traps,
Yeah.
you just tie it in and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, local small business. I don't
Yeah,
really
small
wanna,
business.
want to put any more extra
Yeah.
burden on them that's necessary to make sure that our interests are protected, but, Chris?
Yeah, I agree. It's simple. It's simple construction.
All right, good. Anybody else? Anybody have concerns about following this line?
How big is the tank? Anybody know?
Can you answer that, Katie?
I do. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Katie Enright. So it's a Trapzilla 400, so it's basically like a 4-foot manhole size. So it's small and compact.
Okay.
Even more reason.
500 gallons, is that what they are, or less?
Less probably, right?
Less probably.
It's less. It's a pretty small and efficient unit. I have a picture of it. If you want me to share my screen, I can show you.
You don't see any reason why you could run into any dewatering there? I know it's a pretty wet area.
It's pretty shallow. Also, too, it's a really tight, efficient, basically unit that's being put in there. And all the sewer line up the side of the building is already there. We're literally just tying in the back pipe from the kitchen to the Trapzilla and then connecting it back into the existing sewer line. So it's a small excavation in a small area. I don't anticipate they'll run into water. There's a pretty good elevation difference between there and the actual water in the stream.
It's a drive-over tank? You can drive over it? Because it's all hot top
Yep.
here, right? Okay.
Yeah, this is all hot top here. This is in the parking lot itself.
And Kate, do you have obviously you have an operation maintenance plan or, something for that?
Yep, and I will put that in with the RDA information. So Rick Roswell put this together for us for tonight, and I can put the detail of the Trapzilla and also the maintenance schedule in with the packet for the 15th, so you'll have that. And this is just being turned into, this is going to be the Country Creamery and Coffee House. So essentially, because they're doing the ice cream, the Board of Health had asked them to do or required them to do the grease trap where nothing was being really served there that was being made on premises before. So it's going to be an incredibly small amount, if any, grease whatsoever.
Good. Anything else, Mark? Good question, though. Dave?
Katie, what's the distance from that trap to the Stony Brook, to the Stream Brook?
It's only 20 feet from the edge of the building to the brook.
Okay.
So it is pretty close. And what Rick has done is there'll be, actually he's already put it in out there, there's a silt fence with a sock in front of it to protect the brook during excavation. So he's going to keep it really tight. It's all within the parking lot and the brook will be protected. But it's close. It's probably just about 20 feet off the edge of brook.
Okay.
Good, Mark, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Good, Carl? Good. All right, so I think that kind of gives, Katie, some feedback for you and your client, and, we look forward to seeing you back on the, was it the
The 15th.
March 15th?
Yeah.
Any questions at all?
Nope, that's great. Thank you so much for your time.
Great, you have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Next up, we have Andrew Krenning. This was a minor exemption for in-ground pool and new deck at 14 Livery Road. Discussion item. David?
So, is Andrew here? Are you, oh, that's you, Andrew? You can come up.
Yeah, come on up. Right there.
So this appears to be a minor, it qualifies as a minor exemption under the Chelmsford Wetland Bylaw rules and regulations. But this is kind of the first one I've dealt with since I've been here, so just had a couple of questions on that. Does the commission have any policy with regard to installation of erosion control, even for minor exemptions, even though, it's actually not going to formally come before the commission? I mean, is the commission typically?
I think we usually like to see some, kind of agent's best judgment, but if you think erosion controls make sense, kind of looking at the site and dealing with a situation, it's probably not a bad idea generally. What type of pool are you planning to put in there?
In-ground pool.
In-ground pool, and what type of, is it, some of them we're seeing are saltwater based lately, or?
That's liner, saltwater based liner pool.
Yeah, and how about like when it comes time to, do you have to flush the thing out and drain out? Some of the older pools, you had,
That's the great thing with saltwater, you don't have to drain it and kind of do the
backwash and all
the
that
backwash and stuff. Yeah, the saltwater really
That's what-
eliminates that.
Good. So I think a lot less risk, I think, with having kind of the new kind of type of pools we're starting to see.
You're still gonna pump it down in the fall. Just make sure it doesn't go towards the wetlands, that's all.
Okay.
And I mean, based on my sense of the grades in that area, I think it is sloping. I mean, the topography does slope down toward the wetlands.
A little bit, yeah.
So I think there will need to be some kind of erosion control installed.
Yeah, I talked to the contractor when they came and looked at it last year that they would plan on erosion control, because there is a slight grade towards the wetlands.
So they should be, if they're experienced at all, they should be experienced in installing erosion control, and it'd be a matter of giving me a call to let me know when that's been installed. I'd like to come out and take a quick look at it. And then I think just the other issue, and I think I mentioned this to you already, Andrew, is that there does need to be an RDA filing for the 3 trees that are proposed to come down in the no disturb, or right on the boundary of the no disturb.
Yeah.
So I can assist you with that.
Good.
I guess my question is, so
go
why is
ahead.
it not a real filing?
The question was whether it could be covered, like the.
It's covered under a
We have a minor
mi-
exemption for like pools.
which says,
Yeah.
We're talking we have pool, people come before us with pools all the time.
yeah,
They could technically file a minor exemption.
well, if
Well,
they,
what's,
No,
Mass-
it's because it's more than 50 feet away.
Oh, okay.
That's
so that's it. I know, yeah, we have to look, I don't know if we have the do you have the minor exemption language
yeah,
in
if
front of us?
I
here?
do. I can bring it, I got
it's
it,
like-
if I can bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, I
The
think I've
conversion
looked-
of maintained lawn to uses accessory to existing single-family houses such as decks, patios, and pools, provided the activity is located more than 50 feet from the mean annual high water line within the riverfront area or from a resource area excluding the buffer zone, whichever is further.
Thanks, Dave. Good. Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Good. All right, good. So I think that gives you enough feedback, right?
I think so.
So Andrew, just work closely with our agent.
Absolutely.
And you'll make sure you're good.
Yeah,
And we'll see you, sounds like you'll be back for an RDA at a later date,
yeah.
too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, the next item we have up is, for discussion, is raft storage on Conservation Commission property out at 18-41-23 Willis Drive, 6th Avenue out there by Freeman Lake. And I think we've had this question, I think in the past, years, I think, similar questions, or some questions have come similar to this, but Dave, why don't you take us through kind of a little bit on this?
Okay, well, I did receive an email and phone call from a resident in the area who did tell me that this has been a concern for a number of years now, that someone's a resident or residences of the neighborhood is or are allegedly storing the raft on the town-owned land. So, that didn't really leave me with a whole lot to work with. If we can establish, that there is actually someone storing that kind of private property on town-owned land, I think that there's a valid reason for asking them not to do that. But I think obviously we need to know first off who is doing it, who does own the raft. And I didn't really know where to begin with that because it had so little information. So,
Yep.
Given that I guess this has been an issue for a while, I thought I'd ask the commission, for your, thoughts and,
Yeah.
on the history and background of this.
We've been out some occasions before, we've had some complaints. Occasionally you have to take some action, but sometimes a lot of it's working with the residents too and trying to mediate some of the questions that come up. Dave, you were able to look into it a little bit, right? Got some information, right?
Yeah, most of you realize we have a separate set of use regulations for this parcel of land at the foot of, on Willis Drive at the foot of 6th Avenue. And the reason that we have that separate set of use regulations is because a number of, when was it? 2011 now. Some citizens from Freeman Lake came before us and said, we'd like to be able to use that site at the foot of 6th Avenue to be able to launch boats into Freeman Lake, because you can use Freeman Lake for boating. This is the only piece of land like this where somebody's actually come and asked for us to give them permission to do it. We don't allow boat launches from any other piece of conservation land. Frankly, I don't think there is any other. Well,
The Cranberry Bog.
yes. Well,
Also
Thanksgiving Forest. People will put. It's not. I've seen a couple of canoes go from that parking lot into Mill Pond.
Yeah.
So we work with 2 or 3 of the residents and came up with the amended regulations. The basic change is that we said that we allow people to, normally you cannot use conservation land after dusk. This allows people to cross our conservation land to get to swim in Freeman Lake after dusk, because the town allows that. And we did say provided the town allows swimming, which I believe they still do. Then we said that any boat that is used as type that is permitted in Freeman Lake by the town may be launched from the property and temporarily stored on the property in such a manner so as not to deny the use of the property by the public. And then it goes on, it says that private picnic tables and benches are allowed. Private upkeep and maintenance of the property is allowed, and some of the neighbors do mow that site for us and pick up trash on it. The rest of them, I think, are our standard use regulations. Nowhere in this set of regulations does it address rafts. Also, in this set of regulations, it's a little weak on where we say that the boats can be temporarily stored on the property. We never define temporarily. To me, temporarily meant it couldn't be permanent, but that's a whole nother series of discussions. Turns out, some people in Freeman, abutting Freeman Lake, the kids built a raft 3-4 years ago, and it's been in Freeman Lake since they built it. Last spring, they did ask us to, if they could bring it on shore to fix it, because pieces were falling off of it. So we let them do that. They fixed it up, put it back in the lake. Lo and behold, at the end of the summer, they brought it up on the beach of our land, and it's been there all winter. And that's what the complaint is about, that has been there. So technically, you could say there's two violations. We don't specifically address raft storage, and if we did, we don't talk about how long can you leave a raft on our property.
Is a raft not a boat?
I consider a raft not a boat, yes. A gentleman sent a letter, which some of you have. His name is James Nunnery, and neighbors, lives at 75 Willis Drive. I asked a couple of people if they knew who owned the raft, and they said, yes, we do, and I said, well, will you have the person get in touch with me? Because the person didn't want to say who it was, I can understand. So within a day, the guy sent this email, and I think, Chris, you have it.
You shared it with me, Dave, yeah.
You have it. And Dave, I think you have it. It's short, so I'll read it. Good day, sir. I'm writing you at the request of Wanda Dunn concerning the floating dock located at the bottom of 6th Ave. I believe you're looking for the owner of the dock. The dock really isn't owned by any one family. 4 families came together, built the dock for everyone to use, and in the wintertime, we pull to shore and do our best to position it so that skaters can come down and use it as a place to put on skates or just to sit. It is mine and the neighbors' wish to keep the dock in its location during the winter months, and then as the ice leaves us, we will put the dock back in the water as a swimming float. I hope this is okay, as we want people to enjoy the lake and open the areas in all seasons. Please reach out to me if you have any other questions. It's not in the note, but maybe it was one, somebody said that, and I think I understand it, if you leave a raft in a lake all winter, the ice can do some damage on it, expanding and contracting. And so that was the other reason to pull it out. So that's the facts. So the facts are, it's being stored there, it is technically, it is in violation of our use regulations. So we've got a couple things to do. One is we can enforce the use regulation, make them take it out. That's not the only issue we have. People leave boats there all year round, and they don't remove them off-season.
But isn't this a temporary storage?
There is no, right, this is not temporary storage.
No, this raft slash boat,
Well, if it
whatever you want
goes
to
in the
call it.
water, it is, in the spring, it would have been temporary
Right.
storage. Right now, it's permanent storage.
How? It's temporary. It's temporarily there for a few months.
Is 6 months temporary?
Has it been there for 6 months?
Is 6 months temporary?
What's the definition?
I'm asking you.
I don't
The
know.
Brook
What's
Bridge
up?
is temporary.
Right, that's right. That's right.
There you
Oh,
go, okay.
Now, if I knew that people would abide by the word temporary, I see nothing wrong, I think, and let's talk a little bit about it, with letting them store the raft at the edge of the Freeman Lake from 1 December to 1 April.
Yeah, Dave, I agree with you. I mean, I really don't have a problem with it. I mean, I think somebody should have.
It's not attractive, but.
Yeah, somebody should have come to us so we knew what was going on, because it is our property and we have oversight. But nevertheless, I mean, it's something for people that can benefit, and I don't have a problem with it, you know?
I don't have a problem with it.
We do have trouble enforcing temporary. I mean, the only way we can enforce it is get someone to remove their property, or have the police remove it, or DPW remove it. If we have it in a use that's been approved by the commission, we can use that as an enforcement tool.
But aren't there canoes or boats or something that
Right.
have literally been there, that are
Yes,
dilapidated and
yes,
run?
there is a green canoe on the left that has been there forever
Yeah.
by a gentleman who rides his bike to the canoe. And there's a couple of other boats that are there. There, in fact, is one boat that may have been there for 4 or 5 years by someone who has complained about boats being on the site.
Are these boats that have been there for years, are they actually being used? Or are they
Well,
just
the
sitting in
canoe
the
is,
same
the
place?
canoe gets used occasionally. I think one of them does. I've never seen anybody actually launch a boat and use it.
Is there a fire pit or fire pits on the property?
No.
No, there aren't.
Fortunately.
Okay.
Wasn't there at one point a fire pit there, right?
That's a different piece.
I'll get to that. Okay, I'll get
That's
to that.
different.
What does everyone else think?
I'm fine with it.
I think this is an issue for one person up the street who brings this up regularly. The neighbors, I happen to know who built the raft and who does that. It's a group of neighbors diagonal to the land.
Right.
They maintain that property. There's not a piece of paper or any trash down there anytime I've gone by there, and I go by there quite often. And they cut the grass on that site. They maintain it. There's, the guy with the green canoe is there every day with the canoe out in the water. There's probably a total of 6 boats altogether down there and a raft.
Incidentally, none of these boats are motorized.
No, they can't have
They're all-
motors. You can have electric trolling motors,
You know,
but no
they're-
gas
they're
motors.
Oars or paddles.
Right. I would like to see us change the regulations to allow the raft to be there a certain time. And if there's a question on the canoes that's a little vague, maybe we should straighten that out too. But I'd like to see the neighbors use it. They take care of the property, they enjoy it. That's what it's there for. I don't, because one person makes a big deal out of it, doesn't mean they're right. This is used by the neighbors. They don't abuse it. It's always clean. I go by there probably twice a week, and I've never seen an issue down there. So this is, we spend more time on this little piece of land than we do on most anything. So I think we should change our regulations to allow the raft, and if there's any question on the canoes or the boat, straighten that out tonight too, and be done with this. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Bill.
How do you really feel?
I'm sick of this coming up every 6 months.
Yeah, whenever it comes up, we call Billy.
Billy, you're out there all the time.
I
and you're
go by there at
you're-
least twice a week, and it's,
Yeah, exactly.
people take care of it, they enjoy it, it's not abused, it's not a dumping ground, it's kept nice. It's just, it's a neighborhood spot where they put the raft and they pull the raft looks nice, the raft's all been redone. They pull it up, they can't walk it across the street because it's too heavy. It's all Trex decking on it, you couldn't lift that thing up to cross the street, so I think we need to put a stop to the nonsense down there.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else with opinions, comments?
No, I think, I think the community should have use to that, as long as we're not excluding anyone else from using it.
Yeah.
Then I
Public
really-
benefit, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have any.
So
issue.
David, maybe you can take a look at this, the regulation that David was referencing and maybe tweak it a bit so we can clear up any, clarify a few
Let me
items.
redraft, let me make 2 changes.
You wanna do- okay,
One
yeah.
is, let me add raft,
Raft, yes.
and I don't think raft needs to be defined unless you want to define it by size. I
What's the
mean, we
floating
probably
device?
don't want a 100-foot by 60-foot raft, right? We probably want
It's a 12 by 12.
12 by 12 or something. And
How
the
about an
other
arc? How about an arc?
And the other thing is to define temporary. And I think temporary should be,
We
They
did
could
a
be
few years ago, and we said it had to be removed in the fall.
right. So I think we can be specific and say, it's, temporary is from April to the end of, 1st of April to the end of November. Which
Removed
means
off the property or removed out
removed
of the
off the
water?
property.
Well, the raft can't be moved.
Well, except for raft, right?
Except
The
for
boats can.
Okay.
Well, do you want to leave, we could.
Oh, I don't know how you're gonna delineate between a boat and a
Well,
raft.
you do, you have 2 sentences. I mean,
But he's gonna take a shot at it. He's gonna do a little
Okay,
craftsmanship.
good luck.
I mean, if you want to leave the raft there year-round, why wouldn't you leave the boats there year-round? In which case, if you do that, you don't need temporary.
Well, they do.
right?
Yeah,
So,
and I think,
it's
like Billy
temporary.
says, this
But as
is,
Billy said, he's had enough of this.
this is wasting a lot of time on something that doesn't really.
This is why we're on the commission.
Exactly.
Okay,
We're-
I'll
We're
try
here, we mediate some of these issues that come up and,
The
know.
boats don't bother anybody being there full-time.
No?
You wouldn't even
Well,
know
the
they're
same person,
there.
The same person.
Pardon me?
The same person.
Yeah,
doesn't
we
like
only
the votes.
respond to a
Right.
concern per resident. That's
Right.
all we respond to, every time this comes up.
But that's the way it does work. You look at all the complaints the commission gets, it usually comes from 3 people in town.
Well, that's fine, but if you
And
don't
that's
agree
it.
with them, you have to say that too.
All right. Well, anyway, David, I think that gives you some background.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much. So Dave, you'll draft.
I'll make a draft, I'll send it to you first.
Okay.
We might as well we'll take the opportunity to maybe wordsmith the existing one.
But I do think that is the best approach, is to actually revise the regulations,
Yeah.
rather than just do it on a case-by-case.
Rest in peace, Jack.
Jack, yeah, where is Mr. Jack Souza when we need him?
Jack was here, inspiriting away.
That's right. All right, well, good. So that was our discussion item related to raft storage. I'm gonna have to look, I'm gonna go look up some definitions of rafts, by the way, for next time we come back here, because I'm intrigued.
Huck Finn was on a route.
Huck Finn, yeah, exactly. All right, moving on. Update on Oddfellows. Anything new on Oddfellows?
Yes, there is something new. I received an email yesterday from Mr. Bayani informing me that they are wrapping up the demo and that they will be applying for the permits shortly to do the exterior work. So I replied to him and told him that, as with the demo, I would need a detailed written work sequence for all the exterior work, and would need to meet on site, prior to the start of work, would need to meet on site with the contractor or contractors doing the work.
Great, David, again, great example of where you've jumped in and you've given us a lot of value by overseeing this stuff.
Oh, well, thank
So
you.
we appreciate it.
Dave,
Did I miss a meeting? Did you see a plan for this yet?
No. I haven't seen a plan for
The
the building.
original plan.
Yeah.
We saw a plan for a dining out area and some parking when we saw the plan for the condos.
Did you approve that?
Yeah, because it was part of the plan for the condos.
Okay.
We didn't see, we were told, as you've said many times, we were told we would see a more comprehensive set of plans for the Oddfellows.
Well, I can see the ones we approved.
I don't, we didn't approve any building plans.
Well, they had to be a good building outdoor patio.
No, it was just where the patio was, not where anything else
You know,
was.
it'd be good, though, let's David, if you can get us what we quote voted on and approved.
Right.
Take another look at that
Look at
and
the
see if we need something more.
It's a little vague to me.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's take a look at that.
Sure, I will double check the plans.
Especially where they're coming back to do,
July 2020-ish.
more work.
Dave, did planning board approve splitting the remaining parcel into 2 parcels? One, which was what we call the Fisk House, and the other was the parking lot where the condo was going to be built?
I don't know.
The planning board had a request to take that parcel and split it because they had the owner had a buyer for the Fisk House
Right.
and a buyer for the parking lot. Rumor has it the town would like to buy the parking lot for parking in the center. We probably ought to be aware of that because I suspect, not so much the parking lot, but someone may want to do some work around the Fisk House.
Well, and any work sequence, the work sequence I get, any thing that comes up during on-site meetings with the contractor, I certainly will check against the approved plans. And if there's any kind of deviation at all,
Exactly.
I'll definitely let you know.
Anything new or expanded
Yeah.
or whatever that's different to what we voted on. But it'd be good for us to look and see what we voted on some years back. I know my memory's a bit foggy on
Vivian
what
can
that
find the
was.
minutes.
Vivian might be able to find it.
She would
I'm
know
sure.
them by heart.
Oddfellows.
For those
They
of,
focused on the condos, they really didn't.
It
go-
was, you're right. It was all about the condos and, the 7-foot tall
They just
building
said
that was.
that they're
that's
gonna
why
be
there.
Mark's question is a valid question.
That's it. We You guys really
I don't,
didn't
did,
hear a lot of
I don't know if you,
detail.
any of you have seen, there's, the Historical Society's published a history of the Oddfellows Hall, back to when it was built in, what, 1893?
Oh, wow.
You know, year by year as to what happened. It's just interesting history if you want to read it.
Good. All right, that's our overview for now.
And there are two openings on the Chelmsford Center Committee, so.
There then?
if
I
you
nominate
guys- if
Chris
Chris-
You know, Chris, he loves to volunteer for stuff like that, you know?
Yeah,
What's next?
no comment.
No comment, no comment. We're being televised here, folks. We're on the record. All right, land management, update, Carl, on the Warren Pole reservation, the easements, how are the easements coming along, and the, what was
I
that
don't,
thing?
well, the easements, I believe, are going to be voted on at the
Town meeting?
spring town
Yeah,
meeting, so
spring.
that's the last I've heard on the easements. I shared with you all the video from Chelmsford Telemedia.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
That Becky, she did a great job. You can tell she was a national park ranger for many years.
You know she's a
Does tours.
teacher, right?
She
does a great job at that
She
stuff.
just, and I think she knows that area, I think she knows it. So she did a great job.
We
and,
should, if we, when Dave gets around to it, not that you don't have anything to do there, that video should go on our website under a Warren Pole
Yeah.
section.
I don't know if it's allowed to post a third-party video on the town website. I'll have to check on that.
Well, we can get
It's
permission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pete Padula will give us permission.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's Chelmsford
Anyhow,
Telemedia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dave knows a guy.
So that being said, if, I sent you a draft of an update because, fortunately, we haven't had a lot of people asking questions, but I can imagine, as this, people do ask questions and we should be providing an update. And so if you want to take a look at that, we're going to talk tomorrow some more, I guess.
Sure.
And the CR, we are still working through that. In fact, we're going to talk some more tomorrow. David and I will talk about that. And Jess at the Land Stewardship Incorporated just got back to me today and said that they will start the boundary baseline documentation review at the end of March. And
Good. Any
Anything else on
any
the-
big issues on the CR, do you think? Any big issues, or is it?
I don't think so.
All right.
We have some land trust negotiation back and forth,
Okay.
but I think we'll end up in the right place.
Good.
It'll take some conversation, but.
Good.
Was
We have
there
not
anything
heard
else
from
on the
DPW
DEP?
as to when they're going to start the parking lot.
I haven't, I actually just sent them the order of conditions today.
Good.
And
So
actually
they can start work, right?
Yes, and in fact, I also got an email from Scott telling me that he has been authorized, by
Oh, good.
his.
He's going to be the point person for us?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah. So he has been told to get ready to start work. I think it might be a little bit too early, but I think, he's really going to
Dave, one of
prepare in the next couple weeks.
the things that we haven't done, because we're spending all our time on the parking lot, is DPW is responsible for the traffic at the exit onto Boston Road, and we, Carl and I have no idea, and I'm not so sure we care, but I think it's important that we know what kind of traffic mitigation, if any, is going to happen at the exit right onto Boston Road.
Yeah, we want to make sure it's safe.
Because
yeah.
it does go down the hill there to Hall Road, and it's,
Well, I will definitely speak to Scott.
because, they're going to have to
about
put
that.
signage up and stuff.
Yeah.
When we first went there with Steve Yonley and Katie, and we walked through the different options for access points, and when we got to that point, Steve was very confident they could make that work.
Yeah, but he's not here.
He's not there anymore, so now I'm a
He's
little
gone,
like,
he's gone.
I'm a little concerned, but, he was very confident that there were some things they could do to make it accessible and safe, so.
Well, in the there was a document that was submitted called Requirements for a Parking Lot at Warren Pole, which does have signage included in that, but.
Yeah, but we don't know where, there's signage on our site, but then there's, there should be signage on Boston Road that says reservation ahead or something, or
Yeah,
slow,
slow
or,
down.
I don't know whether they're gonna even put a crosswalk there.
Does the DPW have the capability to actually make signs, or do they contract that out?
I don't know.
Contract.
I think they do both.
Contract.
I think
Okay.
they have a contractor in Westford that they use.
They've been using one in Brockton.
Have they?
Really?
They said they have the signs made up. They've got the signs made up for
That's where they sent
Warren
me.
Pole that we
When I needed
requested.
some signs
And
made,
at the
they
same
sent
time, we had asked for some signs at Russell Mill.
Oh,
They
yeah.
said those are
Last
made
couple
up,
days.
so.
Keep it by the site.
I will speak to Scott.
Yeah, I like them.
Speak to him about this.
All right. So that's land management.
I have
Dave.
we're on a roll tonight.
We are on a roll.
I went to a Carlisle Conservation Commission meeting, because we are in a butter to Carlisle, and Carlisle wants to address their Phragmite problem on their side of the cranberry bog, which I suspect is also on our side of the cranberry bog. Their project description is an ecological restoration of approximately 15,465 bordering vegetated wetland by herbicide treatment of 3 patches of Phragmites australis and 8,268 square feet of riverfront area. If you're walking into the cranberry bog and you cross the dam and you take the left fork to go out to the point, when you get out to the point, if you look towards Carlisle, that's all open and it's full of Phragmite. That's generally the area they want to address. They're tall and tufty, right?
Look like dead corn stalks.
Yeah, they're
Actually, they're very attractive in the fall, and when you put them in your,
But they just,
put them by your.
they become a monoculture.
They
crowd out everywhere.
So, what they're gonna do is they're gonna remove mature reeds by hand.
Really?
They're gonna use a backpack sprayer with successive number of applications. They're gonna put up signs to designate the area of work for walkers. The stalks will be stored in Carlisle and covered with plastic to allow for composting later. They'll notify Carlisle residents 5 days before they start. There will be more than 3 applications of herbicide in 2022 and maybe some in 2023. According to the person who's doing it, who is a Carlisle resident, in the spectrum of herbicides, the overall toxicity is low. Now, that,
That could be comforting, maybe.
yeah, well, with Carlisle, it probably is.
All right.
And it will, and I asked the question, by removing Phragmite, will it increase the flow of water in Chelmsford? In other words, right now, or decrease, because right now, it may be holding water
Holds it
back.
back, yeah.
The answer was they didn't think so. And they will notify Chelmsford, they'll notify you, David, in advance of the work, so that, because we may get phone calls from residents who want to know.
Dave, did they get grant money to do this? I mean, it's gotta be.
No, they said, right now, she said it's gonna be a warrant article in their spring warrant.
Did you say that they're gonna be removing it by hand?
Yes.
I'd like to see how that works out. I've never been able to remove it by hand.
They're gonna cut it back by hand, and then they're gonna go in and spray.
Oh, they're gonna cut it back by hand. They're not gonna,
No, they're not gonna pull it out.
oh, okay.
So that's.
And then cut it and then treat it.
It's a pretty wet area, though. It's in.
I didn't want, it's on Carlisle land. They always
It's
don't.
downstream from us.
Yeah, that's
downstream.
But
It's
it turns around,
downstream.
it goes back to.
That's all I had, Chris.
Thanks, Dave.
River Meadow.
It is downstream.
But we're downstream from them. At River Meadow, Riverbrook,
Oh, really?
Russell Mill.
Yeah, it goes through Great Brooks.
All right. I didn't
Oh, yeah.
realize that. All right. Okay, well, thanks for the update on that. Agent report, anything additional?
Just one more thing. I did get a call from a resident who wants to flush his water softener system into the buffer zone. I did send commission members that email from him. In a phone conversation, I believe I understood him to say he wants to, pipe it in 30 or 40 feet into the buffer zone. I really don't know enough about those systems to know whether there might be any kind of an adverse impact from this kind of
I mean, I'm thinking you might be, you get the circuit rider to check in with, or maybe do a little research, see if it's come up with anybody else, but, I mean, I think it's analogous to back when we used to have pools having chlorinated water being, pumped out, we would always try to keep it a good distance away from the wetlands, and then make sure we had, a control, control to hold it back, so you kind of wanted to soak in out of the wetlands.
So water softener, how much water, how much are we talking?
It's attached to the drinking water system, is that what it is?
Yes, I'm not sure. I mean, what I was thinking.
Maybe a lot of gallons, though,
Remember when this ambulance company came into the center? And they were gonna move inside there, and they were gonna put a system in, and they wanted to discharge it. And I said, well, I don't want you to discharge it within the buffer. Then, I don't know how we left it. He just never came back to us.
Who was it?
Remember, because there's so much
It's a manganese stuff, you had that red stuff, the manganese
So
stuff.
much rust in the water.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
And we didn't want to just dump them
I remember
going
that.
back into that.
No, we don't want to go right in there, we want to be outside the buffer.
So we don't know how much water softener this guy wants to do.
Right.
The only regulation I could find, Dave, is the state of Rhode Island
Really?
has one specifically about water softeners, and they won't allow anyone to dispose of water softener within 100 feet of the wetlands.
Really?
You might, I don't know whether it's appropriate for this or not.
Well, what I was thinking, I mean, does the commission want him to file an RDA? And then the burden would be on him to prove that it would have no adverse impacts.
I
on
suspect this
research
will
areas.
not be the first request that, I'm surprised we haven't had one before. I mean, everyone uses water softeners in their detergent, but that goes into the septic, into the sewer system.
Yeah, and I don't want to
I
make,
guess he can't dump it into the sewer system, is that right? Do you know, or don't you know?
I don't think so, but I can verify that.
But our sewer division and our Board of Health has no regulations about water softener.
Right.
I mean, I don't.
I'd be curious to what the DEP circuit rider says.
Okay, I'll,
I'm sending some emails out, like, you're on that email thing, yeah.
The other thing would be the MACC. There's the forum.
Maybe your suggestion is the right one, Dave. Make him file a requested determination, so.
Never hurts, right?
Yeah, but he's doing the right thing. I really
Yes,
appreciate
he's
that this
asking
guy's-
us-
yeah, and I don't want to make
And we
life,
don't know.
I don't want to make life
That's why
unnecessarily
Chris's
difficult.
suggestion is the right one, I think.
I think
That's what the
honestly,
circuit rider's
Alicia,
for.
what's her name? She sends out a lot of emails. You and I are both getting emails from her.
Yes, okay, that's.
I just
that's
do
great.
some more research. Let's talk about it. I would say, I mean, when's he doesn't need to do this thing like next week, right?
I don't think so, no, I don't.
Let's
think it's serious.
do some more research, then come back on it next week, next meeting.
Okay.
I mean, it's an interesting
I
question.
want to commend the guy for asking, because
Yeah,
we know a lot of people would just do it.
Right.
exactly. And then
Well, they
like,
probably are
And
doing.
it's right at Hart Pond. I looked at the map. He's
Yeah.
right near Hart Pond.
oh,
so-
really? Yeah, that's good. He's
Yeah,
doing it.
so I really
And
appreciate
Dave's already doing some good research. So it's good.
Yeah, if you could send me that link,
Rhode Island, huh?
Dave,
Yeah.
To that information, I'd appreciate it.
That's a good question. All right. February 1st, minutes. Some very comprehensive sets
Yeah.
of minutes for February 1st. We did have one member that was absent for that meeting, but that's okay.
No, it's not okay.
He paid the price.
The only question I have on these minutes is, the section where it discusses what's going on between the Davenports and the Manowitzes. It may very well be, since there's a lawsuit involved between the residents, that our minutes would be requested at a trial.
Yeah, that's possible.
So we need to make sure that whatever we're saying in the minutes is what we remember happened. Or we ought to cut it way back, so the minutes as to that subject are at a minimal. The one technical question that I had on this is, there's a reference in here, there's a low spot in elevation in this area, I think that means the bowl of where, between the Davenports, and water flow appears to be coming from a nearby hill. Freeman Lake is at 120 elevation, and the low point, I'm assuming that means the low point in the specific area, is 110. I don't remember seeing that low elevation of 110.
And I
I would
don't,
have got that right from what you were rattling
Yeah.
off numbers.
and
Because the map I have stops at 120, I don't see anything lower than, but That might be a significant point if the commission believed the elevation was 110.
And I don't remember mentioning that number.
I don't remember 110.
That's why.
Maybe we can go back and
That's a
listen
big
to it
difference
again.
between the lake.
We can go to the video.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why.
yeah,
That's
I'd
why.
be
Oh, yeah, so let's
I think I'd look
double check
into
the tape.
that.
Yeah, let's look at the
My
tape.
suggestion is, and I don't know how,
What
our,
happened?
Or I could have said it, but I mean, I recall 120. I mean, 120 is definitely,
Yeah, you said
imprinted
that
in my
number
mind,
a lot of times.
but I don't remember ever mentioning 110, so, but,
Yeah.
I don't remember
I
110.
can re-listen to it.
You know,
thank you.
let's run can we run the minutes on that section just past town council for his perusal? You know, he was here, he was present for it.
yeah, as a policy, the commission has preferred to have more complete minutes. I've seen some boards and some organizations where the minutes are so short you hardly have any idea what went on, and yet it meets the requirement. So I think that's a good suggestion.
I think we've just run this little section by Mr. Haverty as town council.
I
Just-
didn't, yeah,
Just, you know, just to make sure he's good with it. He probably is perfectly happy with it, but we'll just kind of run it by him, you know.
I didn't have any other comment other than it seems that Mr. Tamul is never here, but.
And I won't be
Sharon,
on,
Commissioner.
I won't be on this freaking committee either, so cough, cough.
Poor guy was appointed in absentia, of all things.
Yeah, I object to these minutes.
Abstention or abstention?
But it looks like if we could, back on the 100-foot thing, or 100, was it 110, let's double check that too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's like table like our vote tonight on the minutes, just we'll look at them in the next meeting.
Yeah,
But-
and I think before I ask town council to review anything, I think we do need to make sure that the minutes are correct.
Yeah,
So,
that's fine.
I
That's
liked
right.
the way the minutes were, like, just, again, we tried to that night, stick to the facts, so I like that, that's what we did, so. All right,
You
good.
didn't stick to the facts on page 6, I'll tell you
Well,
that.
except for that one, page 6.
I
So-
just report the news, I don't make it up.
Yes, the,
So-
page
I
6.
object, Your Honor.
So, Chris, are you
Selection of
willing
the
to serve?
commission members.
No?
I have enough things to do.
Oh, I'm sorry?
I was just asking Chris if he is willing to serve on that committee, because I've been asked a couple times, well, who did the commission appoint?
This is the planning board master plan,
Yeah, the big,
not the open space master
right,
plan.
the 2020.
And that's why we thought Chris would be good, because he wanted to be on
I
planning.
mean, he's a natural when it comes to planning board type stuff.
shut off now.
But we are being recorded, so we always have to be respectful of our peers here,
audience.
of the audience. Because-
All two members.
Look who seconded.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, believe me,
thought if
he
anybody
knows,
here, it was
he
gonna be you,
knows,
Gibbs.
he's noticed that, he noticed that today, he was looking over the minutes. But anyway, before we drift too far away from our main purpose, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I move.
That was the whole move by Mr. Gibbs.
I second
Seconded
it.
by John, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And we're done. The meeting is adjourned, thank you very much, Chelmsford Telemedia.